Right. I think one of the main challenges is that in terms of security, there are one traditional notion which is state-centric, and what has evolved over the past years is a human security, like a people version of security. And these are gradually sort of starting to talk to each other. They're not merging, but they're talking to each other, in which you can see the complementary between state security and the prerogatives that the human security needs, with its many, many different angles, in particular its human rights, justice, development angles to it. So this is evolving, but not accepted everywhere. So what you see coming out of a number of meetings, different groups, there are different takes and different interpretations of what this means and how it should be tackled. Now, the way it's tackled is, in one sense, primarily institutional. It's either government-inspired, or it comes out of institutions like, or networks like ASIC, which fundamentally take an institutional approach, what in fact should be considered as something much more diffused, variable, but interrelated in actual practice on the ground. There are simply so many variables, so many issues, so many people, groups, and angles to look at this, that it's difficult to institutionalize it because you deform and denature the actual issues you're dealing with. And the outcome you want to have is basically, as Kofi Annan said, security for all, not just the state. So I think that's a big challenge. Now, what to do about this, I think one of the critical steps is not just to produce the documents and try to synthesize the documents and reconcile them all. Yeah, conceptual is interesting and needed to get a general sense of what this actually could mean, what it contains, and what sort of principles go behind it and values they have to use to sustainably promote this social security sector reform. But you have to get the people around the table. And there's still, on occasion, the idea that government, foreign affairs should talk to foreign affairs, the police should talk to police, the military should talk to police, the military. In effect, what you have to do is put the military, the state institutions, with civil society organizations, specialists, advocate organizations, universities, scholars, together around the table, for one, to get to know each other and listen to particular perspectives and points of view, and then react and try to clarify and seek, well, where is the overlap? Where can we agree on rather than where we disagree on? And this basically requires that you put people in the same group. Now, that is by definition a challenge, because you can say, some of these groups are not used to talking to each other, so you have a bit of a hesitation, distance, or even mistrust. And then you have to work through, how are we going to talk to each other and what can come out of it? With problems, for example, that the military is much more hierarchically organized, so a big important officer will have a hard time talking to a young grassroots activist. But that's the reality that we're faced with today. So I think this is a necessary step. It is a big challenge to pull that off, but it's done increasingly well. And apart from a challenge, it's a way forward. It's an essential asset to actually use if we want to move this issue forward. And this can work. I mean, for example, some of the events we organized, you pull people from different horizons together. And it was an interesting example from a country which has recently become independent, in which, in fact, the NGO had very great difficulty getting access from the government ministry to a given area to do different activities. But the man in charge at the ministry of giving access to NGOs was at the same meeting. So in effect, she never met him, but she met at this meeting in Geneva. And in the coffee breaks and after the breaks, they talk things through. And now the access is going to be organized in a formal way, but at that meeting, because we've got these different groups on the table. So you can have a direct impact, a very concrete impact on getting different people together who for years hadn't been able to meet and didn't want to meet. So I think there's a way forward in other different domains as well, to mix different, more traditionally separated institutions around a commonly shared issue, which has many, many different angles. And in that sense, I think it's constantly evolving. The different variables important in different countries. So we should not, and I think we should avoid, becoming too specific into a one single definition of what things are, how it should be done, and which direction it goes. I think the whole policy debate in these meetings should leave a lot of flexibility for variation and local adaptation as concrete as possible. And not be afraid of duplication. I mean, duplication might differ the same things and could work very well here or less well somewhere else. And it makes the approach and the impact much stronger. People are very worried about duplication. I'm not. If it's a network phenomenon, what we're dealing with many different angles, duplication is a good thing. It makes the whole effort stronger. You know, one person can't do one thing very well for everybody. And that's just the reality of today.